All right, Havens, a video just for you. Okay, so I want to go over your script, which I like, but it does need a few things here. Okay, so here we go. I like that the characters in the phone and in the travel, I really like the idea that they, what was it, somebody that made them feel uncomfortable or they feel more overwhelmed. Character runs into someone on a corner, making character feel more overwhelmed. Yeah, it's interesting, and then I like how the environment gets more blurred and abstract, and it's cool. So, to tell a story, we need some things, right? All right, so I don't know if you've seen this before, but it's very, very helpful, and it's called the story circle, all right? So, and I'm gonna have you watch a video too, which I'll show you in a minute. But, so every story that you've ever seen is pretty much the same. And usually when you see this and I go through it, you go, no, that doesn't make sense, but it's true, right? So a character is in a zone of comfort. So that's number one, you. So the person is sitting on their bed with their phone, right? Just normal. Two, they want something. And so this is where it gets a little bit interesting because what they want and what they need are not the same thing. So I'm going to do an example down here. I'm going to find an example. My example is, I'm going to do the opposite of yours, just because I think it's interesting. To not be alone. So what does the character want? To not be alone, right? So how do I know this? And we call this exposition. How do I know that this character wants to be alone? How do I know that your character on the bed with their phone wants to get away from everybody, right? So an audience wouldn't have no idea what's going on throughout the majority of your story because you haven't told them on the front end what it is that character really wants, right? And that's what we call exposition, which is fundamentally important to a story. So you have to figure out, how do I get the audience to understand what the character wants, like before the first two actions? It needs to be there. It could be, so here's my example. So what does the character want? To not be alone. So my character is sitting on the bed, right? Their parents are each on the phone in the living room, kind of ignoring her. Her siblings are with their friends. So we see her kind of like looking in through the doors of her family, and everybody's doing something, and she's alone, right? So through the actions of her kind of looking at her family, and her family's busy, and then she sits alone on her bed, I get the exposition of my character is alone, and they don't want to be, okay? So then the character walks out of the room. I'm going to keep the same thing because they're going out looking for somebody, okay? So that's what the go is. So my character is in the room alone. They want something. They want not to be alone. Go. They enter an unfamiliar situation. So she leaves the house, which is not her comfort zone, which is sitting on her bed with her phone. She leaves, right? 4, they adapt to it. So 4 is where all of the things, the more interesting parts of the story takes place, because this is where the conflict grows. So that is mostly all of this in here in your story. They feel overwhelmed by this person. They go into the environment gets blurry and messy. They go into a cafe, a coffee shop, and there's tons of people there. You know, this is all the conflict, okay? So for my story, my character does not want to be alone. She leaves the house where her family is ignoring her to find people. She goes to a coffee shop, but everyone ignores her. She goes to a toy store, but it is closed. She goes to a neighbor's house, and I can't spell. She goes to a neighbor's house, and they say, "Go away, little girl," because they are terrible neighbors, right? Okay, so these are the things here in the search. She's searching for what she wants, which is to not be alone, right? Now, after you've done that, you have to, number 5, they have to get what they want. I know that sounds weird. You go, well, no, not all stories the person gets what they want, but absolutely they do always get what they want. But what they want and what they need are not the same thing, right? So in number 5, get what they want. She wants to not be alone. Well, she meets a scary creeper dude, old lady. She meets a scary creeper old lady who terrifies her. Well, she just got what she wanted. She wanted to not be alone. Now she's not alone. She's now in the presence of some creepy, old, terrifying lady, right? So, right? You agree? We gave her what she wanted. Right? 6, she has to pay a heavy price for it. So, this creepier old lady who terrifies her, that's the price she pays. She's terrified. She's scared, right? Then she needs to return to that familiar situation. So it doesn't mean that she needs to return to go back to the bed. It means that she needs to return to a comfort zone. Okay? So I'm going to have her end up at the top of a mountain after, getting away from the creepy old lady, right? Where she feels entirely alone. Right? So we've returned her back to her comfort zone alone, but she needs to have changed for it. While she's at the mountain, her mom and dad and siblings show up. Right? Because what she wanted was to not be alone, but what she needed was her family, right? Does that make sense? So she got what she wanted, but that's not what she wanted. She needed really the family, which was what we built in the exposition, okay? So I want you to revisit your story here, but I want you to include this story structure to it, all right? And then we can go from there. So it's things that you need to be able to answer. What does the character really want versus what they want? So what do they need versus what they want? How do I know this? How do I know what they want? And that's going to be the exposition. What is the conflict? And that's right here. And let's say that there's got to be at least 3 conflicts. 3 things that have to happen to our character as she's trying to get what she wants. Okay? And then what is the resolution? If you're trying to tell, and the resolution does not need to be good, at the mountain, her mom and dad and siblings showing up, you don't have to do that. Maybe here, no one shows up, and she learns to be okay with being alone. That is a absolutely fine other ending to this story, because the character that returns her to her comfort zone, but she has changed. She must have changed, right? So you figure out what that resolution is going to be, and oftentimes the resolution is the most gratifying part of the film, right? So think about that. There's this story or this video I'd like you to watch, and it's called "Every Story is the Same." And they're the guy that does Rick and Morty. His name is Dan Harmon. He developed this story structure off of this very old philosophy on how stories work. And this is a very good. This is a very good little video. It's 15 minutes long, but it walks you through how stories work, gives you tons of examples. It's awesome. So watch the video, revisit your story, send it back to me where it fills the hero's journey, which is that story circle thing that I just showed you. This is called the story circle or the hero's journey. Okay, is that it? I think I covered things. Yes, this is going to be awesome. I'm excited. Peace out.